What's up, everybody? Today's episode, we're just going to be going over the Honda Talon 1000R and some of the aftermarket upgrades that I've done. Alright, so 2020 Honda Talon 1000R. It has 840 miles roughly and about 94 hours on it. And I've got to say, I love this machine. It's so much better than the Can-Am X3 that I used to have. It's just so much more fun to be able to use the paddle shifters and really be able to select what gear you're in. And I like it a lot too for like cruising in the trails and stuff like that, because you can be in high range and be in a higher gear and your RPMs aren't going crazy because there's no belt. It's just a lot of fun and a great machine. So starting off, we're just going to go run front to back and basically just give you a rundown of everything. So starting up front, up here we got a HMF bumper and the HMF exo bars. Really like these things. The exo bars up front, and they attach the roll cage right here. It really gives you a good mounting surface if you need to pull somebody. If I need to either be pulled out or pull somebody out, I'm not worried about the bumper flexing or bending, because just from the frame mounts down there, because I got these top mounts going to the cage, and of course you can't really put too much weight on it. It's still only like 10 millimeter bolts holding it in and that sort of thing. So the winch on this thing is a Super ATV 4,500 pound winch. It's got a nylon rope versus the steel cable. I have to say I'm pretty happy with this thing. It has pulled me out of some sticky situations. It's helped me pull others out of even worse situations. It's all in all, it's been a pretty good winch. Once this thing does finally go out on me, Super ATV actually has a deal going on right now where the 4,500 pound winch is about half off, versus where it's normally like $450. Right now it's only $250. So once that thing does go out, I'll probably just be looking online and look for better deals and stuff like that, because you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on a winch, big badass winch, if you know you're going to be going through the water and stuff like that. They're not designed for it. 6-inch light bar. I believe it's DDI 4x4. Y'all can correct me in the comments. I'm not 100% sure. It was installed on it whenever I bought the machine, but I've got nothing but good things to say so far. It's been through a lot of deep water, and there's still no leaks yet. Not yet, at least. I don't see any condensation built up or anything like that. It's pretty bright. Just for a little bitty 6-inch light bar, it's pretty bright. Currently, right now, I got to go get a new relay for it, because out riding the other weekend and just mixture of water and dirt and everything else, the relay went bad and it stopped working. But it's a universal relay. You can buy them from any auto parts store or whatever and then replace it. I probably will try to seal it somehow, because just try to keep a little bit more of the water out and stuff like that. It's not going to be 100%, but it'll be better than what it was. I've got the Hess i4-wheel drive override on this machine also. It's a very good system. There hadn't been any bugs. I haven't had any issues with it. Use dielectric grease whenever you're plugging in the pins and stuff like that, and it really helps out trying to keep the water out. But as far as the connectors being sealed from Hess, they do a pretty good job. The reason I have the i4-wheel drive override is because of the big tires. Once you get really any size bigger than a 32-inch tire, the i4-wheel drive on the Talons don't really have the ability to give you the limited slip that comes with it from the factory, because the i4-wheel drive system uses the ABS to give you the limited slip action of the differential. And with the bigger tires, it just doesn't work right. I have 32-inch trail tires. I'll put a clip in the video right now. The 32s, it still works okay. Obviously, it's still not as good as factory, because the factory tires are 28-inch tires. 32s, it still does pretty okay. If you want a more in-depth video about the i4-wheel drive and explaining how it works and that sort of thing, go check out Mud Puppy's page on YouTube. Just type in Mud Puppy i4-wheel drive Talon, and he is very knowledgeable about it, more knowledgeable than I am, and he'll give you a really good in-depth what it does, what the i4-wheel drive override does, and torque lockers and stuff like that. Up front down here, it's got factory arms up front. If you can tell, I don't know if you could tell in the video, but the passenger side has a slight bend. Going over a river crossing last weekend, and I just caught a rock that was probably about 3 feet underwater. Couldn't see it. You know how it is, the murky water, and I was going pretty slow, so it didn't mess it up that bad. But you can kind of see, you can kind of see a little bit of a bend. It's kind of arched right there now, close to the attachment to the frame. I haven't been able to notice if it's affecting my ride any. The point of attachment to the frame doesn't look bent or anything like that. The spacing is correct, so I think I'll just rock with it for now until something else happens. Factory axles all the way around. I haven't had any issues with them. Whenever I bought this machine used. Whenever I bought them, the first thing I did was pop them out and put more axle grease on both ends of the diff, going into the diff, because there's a seal inside on the differential that seals it, keeps water out and that sort of thing, but sometimes it doesn't always do 100% of the job, and you get water in there, and that's when you have your axles stick and that sort of thing, and it's not good. Pain in the ass to take them out at that point. Super ATV skid plate on this thing, it's right there if you can see it, kind of sticking up a little bit. I will probably make another video just about the skid plate, because I need to take it off and clean up underneath there. And I'll give you overview, my opinions about it. It's been on the machine for about 600 miles, so really just kind of check it out, because even though it is 1/2 inch, it's still plastic. So want to go through, see what type of scratches we got on there, that sort of thing. Wheel and tire setup. I've got 2 different tire setups for this thing. I've got a trail setup and mud park setup. So the trail setup, I just have Tarachi Strikers. They're 32-inch tires. I don't know off the top of my head what width they are. I'll add it in text in the video, but they are on the factory Honda Talon wheels. Great all-terrain tire. It does pretty okay in rocks. It doesn't have as much grip as like the Rockzillas and stuff like that, but they do pretty good as far as trail riding. These tires, this setup, they are 16x7 MSA beadlocks with 34.5 inch by 9 Tarachi Aztecs. So on a Honda Talon, you can fit 35 stock without having any rubbing issues and stuff like that. But Tarachi doesn't make a 35 with a 16-inch wheel. So I went with the 34.5 inch tires because I'm trying to conserve a little bit on weight. I didn't want a big ass wheel there that weighs 40 pounds and then have the weight of the tire on there. Because with these Honda Talons, if you're not careful, even in low range with these tires, you'll toast the clutches. It's just the gear ratios. These things are geared kind of high from the factory, and you put a big knobby tire on here and you get stuck in all that clay, slop, and just suction cup mud, and you go try to break up out of there. The clutches can't handle it just because it's such a bigger tire. So trying to conserve on weight a little bit, that's why I went with the 16-inch wheels instead of like an 18 or a 20, and 34.5 inch tires instead of 35s. These are the HMF rock sliders. They've done pretty good. I haven't really put myself in a position where I seriously needed them. So, I mean, like you can tell, they got a couple dings and scratches here and there, but overall, nothing too serious. It mounts to the frame and in the back. The lower doors I have on here are from Worley Custom Fabrication. So for the diesel guys out there that know who WC Fab is, They actually make a lot of Honda Talon parts too. If you want to go check them out, they've got arched radius rods, the lower doors, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure you can even order a custom roll cage from them if you're gonna do like the UTV cross-country racing and stuff like that. They actually just came out with arched A-arms for the front, and they're really beefy. 100% boxed, internal welds and stuff like that. Probably the most beefy A-arm setup that I've seen on the market so far. But they do a lot of that cross-country racing and stuff and really put that equipment to the test. The roll cage that I have was installed when I bought the machine. So that's what really caught my eye. Like I said, I bought this thing used, and the guy that owned it before I did had someone install this roll cage. I do not know the brand. I do not remember the brand. Whatever he told me, I don't remember what it was. So sorry about that, guys. I can't give you any information about that. So on the interior, I don't have them in the side-by-side right now, but I do have PRP 4-point harnesses. They work pretty good. There's pretty good cushion in the shoulder restraints. Those who know PRP, their reputation speaks for themselves. I'm not going to go in depth about it. I have the Super ATV switch panel. You see there's the winch, light bar, and then the i4-wheel drive override switch. This panel is better. I feel like, so from the factory there's like a cubby hole right there. But this switch panel gives you the universal, like the more universal switch cutouts versus the Honda Talon ones. They're a lot bigger. They're not much wider, but they're longer than these. This style, it's like you go to any auto parts store and buy a universal style switch and it'll snap right in there. So the shift plate is from CA Tech, and this thing is really good. The factory shift plate is definitely something that you need to change on your Honda Talon if you still have it. If you're smart, you can kind of still roll with it a little bit, but something that's been happening, and it's all over the internet, people will get stuck in between the gears. Like, so on the factory one, you have more indentions like this. For park, you got one for reverse, neutral, high, and low, right? And they're all in one line. So the issue people are having is they'll go reverse, low, they'll be drunk in a mud hole, and then they'll try to get it into low, and it didn't fully engage. So if you're smart about it, you can get it to fully engage and not ever have to worry about destroying your sub transmission like so many other people have. And you just got to make sure that you shift with a purpose whenever you do it, because these things are kind of finicky. And make sure that your shift cables are adjusted properly, so that way there's no slack in the system. So I've got a Eco X Gear speaker. I bought it off of Amazon. I want to say it was around $400 or something like that. It's waterproof, or water resistant, I should say. I was kind of in a hurry installing it. That's why that cable's just like loose hanging around over there. But for the money, it's a pretty okay speaker. It gets pretty loud here in the cab, but it's like some of the other people's setups that you see at like different parks and shit like that. You're not going to win any competitions with this by any means. It's got lights in the speakers, alter through them, that sort of thing. This is for a light bar on the back. I'll go over there and show you. So this is the light bar that's on the back. It's not that bright. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy this speaker in hopes, oh, it's got a light bar, I'll be able to see whenever I'm backing up. It's not that bright. It's good as like a third light versus just having the factory tail lights if you're like trail riding or doing whatever stuff like that at night, high dust environment. But there's 3 different color options. So there's red, amber, and then there's just white. The white has 3 different brightness settings. All in all, it's pretty good. It's got Bluetooth. It'll pick up FM radio. It's got an aux port. It's a pretty good speaker for the price, I'll say. So working our way to the back of the machine, I recently put on a Moose tailgate. It's pretty good. It gets the job done. It sticks out way further than some of the other tailgates that you can buy. Some of them only come to like this line right here. So this is really nice, having that extra section of plastic that you can store stuff in. I will say I'm not really a fan of the hardware that they give you. You can kind of see it's, you know, this stuff is, that's a factory bolt. But you can see it's already rusted. So I mean, if you really wanted to, if you're real worried about it, you could go to like a hardware store and buy replacement bolts for it that are stainless, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. The bolts that come with it are just steel. That's why they're rusting. The rear bumper is actually part of the roll cage, so you can see it all comes down and it connects to one piece with that same sandwich joint that I showed you earlier up there up top. It came with the receiver hitch, all that stuff. Again, guys, please don't ask me what it is. I'm sorry, but I just don't know. The guy didn't really tell me too much about where it came from or what brand it was. HMF slip-on exhaust. I didn't want to go with the full exhaust and have to mess with the head pipes and all that stuff and risk breaking a bolt off in the head, and then I gotta tear the whole engine apart, that sort of thing. You guys lube the hell out of the factory bolts. I had one of them break on me. So the factory one down there, it still has a spring in it, but the top one, it broke on me, and it was a pain in the ass trying to get it out, just some tight spaces and stuff with a drill. And it is a hardened bolt, so it took a while for me to drill it and then get in there with an easy out. CA Tech arched A-arms in the rear. These were also installed before I purchased the side-by-side. The guy that owned it before me backed into a stump out trail riding, and it bent the driver's side. It's probably bent at like a 30-degree angle. It no good, right? So he put those on there, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. The spherical heim joints are really good. They don't squeak. That's what I really like about them. A lot of times you'll have issues with them squeaking and stuff like that. They haven't squeaked yet, but the lowers are full billet aluminum, and then the uppers are just like a hollow tie rod, but they're also aluminum. So the snorkel on this thing I built myself at home. Some of the aftermarket snorkels that you can buy, I just didn't really like the fact that you had to drill through this plastic piece, big old 3-inch hole through the plastic piece to get the snorkel. So I built it myself. Came through this side right here, just cut it out with a Dremel tool. You can buy the kit. If you go on Amazon and search 3-inch intercooler pipe kit, it'll come up. It's got different straights, 90s, 45s, and all the boots and clamps that you need to fix it. It is still, it's hooked up to the factory intake, so I still have the factory intake in there. I also have a pre-filter in the airbox. I ran into an issue. We were out riding in a very dusty environment, very muddy environment, and the brand new air filter that I put on there just got completely caked up with dirt and debris, and I was not very happy with it, because the filters are pretty expensive, and for some reason you can't get the Honda OEM filters either. They're all sold out everywhere you try to go look. So it's an aftermarket filter that's in there right now. And then I have a pre-filter in there. I'll put a clip in the video, picture of it. It's actually underneath the factory air filter, and there's some bolts in there that you got to take out to get into it and stuff. But that pre-filter came off of Amazon also. It wasn't that expensive. It's 3 inches, and it sits at it's like angled. The intake on it is angled. So I've got the vent lines done. You can see the one for the rear diff, and then up over there, that's the one for the sub transmission. I'll post another video about it, how to do it, and what vent lines you can run together, what vent lines you can't run together, but they're ran up into the cage, out of the way, out of the water. Very important that you do that, so you don't toast your sub transmission or your diffs, because that's another issue. Factory hose comes up, and it just clamps to this little nipple right here and runs through the cage. And down there at the bottom, at the bottom there's a little hole that lets the pressure out and that sort of thing, but it's a great place for water to get into if you're riding through any type of water environment. So future plans about this thing, I talked about the skid plate, doing a video for that. I talked about the vent lines, doing a video for that. I'm going to soon purchase 4-inch portals from Super ATV for this thing, and I'll give an in-depth review about them, what I think of them, why I went with a 4-inch, and the gear ratio that I chose. I don't want to go bigger than a 4-inch because once you get too high in trail riding with portals and stuff like that, the center of gravity raises up, and it's not as good for climbing hills and stuff like that and rocks. I'm going to do a video about it because I've done a little bit of research into it, but it doesn't really seem like a lot of people are posting anything about a TALON R with portals. I see a lot of TALON 1000X with portals, videos about that, but none with the R. So the R is different than the X. Obviously it's wider and the suspension articulates different, but basically it's pretty much the same up front. It's got ball joints and tie rod ends, and that's how the portal attaches up there. But back here in the back, it's completely different than the X. So back here in the back, you got 2 radius rods, which that's the same, but you have this A-arm up top. On the lower trailing arm, it uses a ball joint to attach to the knuckle. The TALON X uses a bracket that's actually welded to the trailing arm from the factory, and it bolts up with like 6 or 8 bolts to the actual factory knuckle, and that's how it's bolted up. That's why you don't get as much travel out of a TALON X versus the TALON R that has the A-arm and the ball joint trailing arm setup. Super ATV makes, whenever you get the kit, it comes with a new knuckle. Once I get them and install them, I'll give a full video review and that sort of thing about how the quality of it and that sort of thing. But there's not that many TALON R's on YouTube that I've seen with portals. So there's videos out there, but none of them are talking about how they bolt up and stuff like that. So I'll be giving a full in-depth review about them and my opinions, what I think is good and bad. Truthfully, the TALON X is probably better for portals just because you don't have a ball joint supporting the weight and an A-arm supporting the weight. The whole trailing arm is bolted to the actual knuckle. It's a lot better setup if you're going to run portals. But for the type of riding that I do and the fact that I'm only going with a 4-inch portal, I feel like it'll be pretty okay, because once you get bigger than that, like 6 or 8-inch, it kind of seems to me that you might run into some issues with the tire wanting to kick out and stuff like that, get caught in a rut, break the ball joint, whatever. I'll talk more about it whenever I actually get the portals in and put on. Anyways, guys, that wraps up today's episode. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.